everyone and welcome. I thought I'd change up my color theme a little bit, make some different types of textile art in a totally different color theme than what I've been doing lately. So I thought I'd share with you the process that I use to color, mark, just make some visual pops with paint, inks, fabric dyes on different pieces of material. Now it's going to be a few different videos because I let each medium dry before I add another medium to it. It just builds up that beautiful color layer and I don't have to worry about smudging or any colors running into each other. So I'll do a few different videos where I'm using different types of mediums on the same pieces of fabric just to give it a beautiful visual display. I guess when I put them all together into some textile art pieces, I've got these lovely flashes of color, flashes of marks that make my pieces a little bit more interesting. So the first thing you're going to need is a big pile of fabric in the color of your choice. As you can see, I'm leaning towards the greens, the yellows, the limey colors for a bit of mark making on fabric. And with that, of course, I've then chosen paints, a few inks and a few fabric dyes that match that color theme. I've got some acrylic paints, I've got some acrylic inks as well. I've got some just normal fabric dye that I've picked up from my local Spotlight shop, and I've got some Sumi ink, which I'm going to do my beautiful black lines on, or my black patterns, or just some flashes of black on some of the material pieces. So I've got a lot of tools for mark making, such as old paint brushes, feathers, some handmade brushes. This is an old ceramic clay scraper that I like to use, some cotton buds. I'll use mainly these ones for the black ink, but then a lot of the other bits and pieces I'll use to add some marks with the paint as well. So I'm really happy to share this process with you, and I'm excited to see what type of marks and patterns and splashes of color I can make on different types of fabric. My fabric ranges from scraps of t-shirts, a few pieces of silk scraps that I've picked up, just some old cotton, anything really that I can find in this lovely green color theme. And then of course some of the neutral colors that will sit alongside of it to add that visual contrast. I've got some transparent, I think this is just lace curtain material, some old bits of canvas drop sheet, t-shirts. This is a nice textured piece of material that I found. Really anything that I can color up, make some marks on. I know that the paints and the inks will respond differently to different textures of fabric, different types of fabric. So that's a really exciting exploration as well. So let's get started and make some marks on some fabric. First up, as I said, I'm going to use some Sumi ink, and I'm just going to let that completely dry for maybe a couple days, depending on how warm it is in my studio, before I then add some more color on the top of that as well. So let's get started. So I've laid out some of my fabric pieces. I've torn off little bits and pieces. There are regular shapes. There's a whole variety of different types of fabric. I haven't used all of my fabric pieces, mainly because I don't want every piece of material that I use on my textile art pieces to have black marks on them. I only want just a splattering, or just some visual pops of black. Same with the paint as well. So I will do some pieces of fabric with some black Sumi ink. I won't cover all of these pieces up with the ink itself. I'm looking for interesting marks, interesting patterns and some interesting shapes. I take my time doing this. I'm not after a particular anything at the moment. As I said, I just want to get some marks down on different pieces of fabric. I've covered my entire art table with an old drop sheet that I picked up from the hardware shop. I've been using it for a lot of other projects as well, which is why it's got some marks on already. I quite like using the ink on the fabric and then having the ink seep through to the drop sheet underneath. I get some really surprising marks sometimes that I end up using in my textile art pieces as well. So I'm going to start. I've got a few different varieties of mark making tools just to have a play around with as to what type of marks I can make. Some I'll vary the size of the marks. I'll vary the brush strokes or the marks that I can get from the feather or the stick. As I said, I just take my time and explore what different types of marks I can make on these pieces of fabric. I'll just choose little areas to put the black marks on. I want to let it dry, and then sometimes I will overlay those black marks with some fabric dye or even some acrylic ink, or sometimes I will leave them simply as the black Sumi ink. So as I said, I won't cover the entire piece of fabric. I'm just going to have a bit of a play now and see what I can create. I thought I might make mention too, this is straight up Sumi ink. I haven't diluted it with water, which of course you can. I like that really bold black that I can get with the Sumi ink, so I don't really want to dilute it down. But as I said, that's up to you if you want to sort of have it a little less vivid black.